Hi everyone. Hello, irreplaceable people. Today we are very lucky to have with us Tyler. We will talk with Tyler about um, components around how do we use technology and AI at the best, and especially how do we mitigate all the issues that can come from the use of these technologies on our well-being and on our work and our lives. So it's a great topic, very important because you might be become a superhuman using AI and those technologies, but if at the end of the day you lose all the benefits you gained from those technologies into distraction, addictions, and other issues, it's just a waste. So thank you very much, Tyler Rice, to be with you today. How are you?
I'm very well, Pascal. Thank you so much for having me, and pleasure to be introduced to your community.
Thank you. Uh, Tyler, can you tell us a bit about you? You're working in a very interesting company and you're doing great things. Can you tell us about your passion and then we'll go into more crunchy details about recommendations that you would give people for well-being in this new age.
Absolutely, I'd be happy to. So my name is Tyler. I'm the co-founder and the CEO at the Digital Wellness Institute. The Digital Wellness Institute has grown to become kind of a global leader in digital wellness research, education, and certification. So what we do is we primarily work in the employee well-being space to incorporate digital well-being as a pillar of human flourishing. And if you think about the way that workplaces are thinking about digital wellness and employee wellness in general, what they're not accounting for is the impact that screen-mediated technology has on the employee experience. And that's what we're bringing to the market. We believe that a company's digital culture is their workplace culture, especially in the age of remote, hybrid, knowledge work. The two are synonymous. And so we help companies improve their digital culture by thinking all about these questions that I'm sure we're going to dive into. But ultimately, how can we as humans get the most out of technology without technology getting the most out of us?
I love it. Um, Thanks, Tyler. That's very relevant to what we want to learn from you. And so, can you, to start with, tell us what are the issues that we need to and the risks that we need to mitigate?
You've hit on a number of them so far. Ultimately, I think it boils down into a couple things. One, our degree of focus, right? Our degree of creativity, our degree of productivity, right? Take AI as an example. AI has innumerable benefits and innumerable opportunities to enhance our productivity. However, right, if we are dependent or over-reliant on that, to what extent does that start to diminish our productivity, right? Pascal, one of the things that I don't think I've shared with too many people outside of my own network is that I'm actually writing a book myself as well, and it's called Tactical Disconnection. And the entire premise behind this book is that all technology has a point of maximum benefit, a point of maximum utility, at which point we are getting the most out of technology without technology getting that most out of us. However, every unit of connection beyond that point of maximum benefit leads to a law of diminishing marginal returns. So take AI and productivity for an example, right? It can enhance our productivity up to a certain point, right? We reach a pinnacle, after which over-reliance on that tool, ultimately, in my mind, I predict will lead to a diminishing marginal returns on human productivity, human creativity, because of our over-reliance on that. So we need to strike this balance between optimal usage and suboptimal usage and learn to identify when we are at risk of being on that right side of the equation.
I love it. I love it. What I talk about in my research that is very similar to that point is how do we know when to use AI or when not to use it, especially to avoid diminishing our own capabilities. And I came out with the principle of growth or joy. So whenever you have a task that is related to our human abilities, I'm not talking about doing analytics or something that computers are better than us in doing, but when we are talking about creativity, about connection with others, about critical thinking, Any of those activities, whenever you have to do one, ask, am I going to learn something from it? That's the growth. And am I happy to do that? Do I like to do it? So if either of those is true, then do it by yourself. And then you can invite AI later to help you, but you need to take the lead so that you don't diminish your own capabilities.
Exactly. Exactly right.
Um, I love it. And uh, so one of the key issues is diminishing. You talked about distractions.
Mhm.
What are the other issues that we need to
Yeah, so we're looking
use?
at a lot of things, specifically in the workplace. What we're doing is we kind of applied a framework called the digital balance model, in which we look at three main pillars. We look at digital balance, digital inclusion and belonging, and digital boundaries. So balance, belonging, boundaries. We look at the ways that technology can either enhance or diminish an employee's feelings amongst those three pillars. And so if we take balance, for example, right? To what
Mhm.
extent does new technology enhance or detract from my ability to balance tech with life outside of tech, right?
Mhm.
To what extent does it really leave me feeling drawn in and sucked into this virtual world? Or does it provide me with kind of the tools and the abilities to disconnect and have a healthy balance? We talk about belonging, right? To what extent do I feel a part of a community in a virtual space, right? And to what extent does that enhance my feelings of connectedness with others, or frankly detract from that if I'm spending too much time interacting in this virtual community versus an in-person community? So we're looking at all of these things. So when you talk about the issues, yes, we're talking about distractedness. Yes, we're talking about productivity loss, but we're also talking more macro trends around connectedness, the impacts of on our mental and behavioral health, frankly, the impacts on our societal wellness as well. But we at the Digital Wellness Institute are really approaching that through the lens of the employer well-being market, because we think that that's the best and most efficient path to ultimately impacting individuals and sharing this kind of notion of digital flourishing with them.
Excellent. I love it. Um, can you tell more about yeah the recommendations? Let's start with I mean each of us as individuals. What do you recommend in our relationship to build a solid and I would say healthy relationship with AI and other digital technologies in our daily lives? What would be your recommendations?
Yeah, a couple things. So in the book that I outlined four main tactics for tactical disconnection. The
Okay.
first one is to awaken our perceptions, to tune our perceptions to those around us, and ultimately to tune our perceptions to the way that which we ourselves are being perceived when interacting with technology. And I think that there's a self-perception bias, Pascal, when thinking not just about AI, but I want to think about my device usage in general, right? So for those listeners that are listening in, if you happen to be, commuting in public transit or what have you, I would love you to look around and observe those around you, right? And if they happen to be interacting with their devices, right, what is your perception of them, right? If there's a family sitting across at a dinner table at the restaurant next to you and all of them are hunched down over their devices, what immediate judgments come to mind to you, right? I think we often tend to look at those around us, Pascal, who are using their devices, and we think, oh my gosh, they are distracted, they are unengaged, they are unconnected, disconnected. We think negatively, right? However, when we ourselves are guilty of the same or doing the same, it is often because we think that we are being productive, right? So if I am on the train, right, and I am hunched over my device, I'm writing an email or I'm writing a Slack message. So I see myself as being productive, right? We need to awaken our perceptions or tune our own perceptions into the way that we are perceived by others. And so ultimately, I advocate for, especially in work and kind of team settings, really being clear about why we are using our devices. And that applies to AI as well, right? When we are clear and stating our intentions about why we are using our devices, actually those negative perceptions, they go away because people understand, oh, Tyler is using his device for productive work, right? Rather than, oh, maybe he's on a Twitter doom scroll, right?
Mm.
So actually, when we're clear about our intentions and state that, that is actually something that that tends to be of benefit.
Okay, so
I
so
also
just to make sure I understood the point, Tyler, it's kind of a self-awareness uh,
precisely,
act where you on your mobile and you have this um, self-awareness moment when you say, okay, what am I doing exactly now?
precisely.
And is it really needed that I'm on my phone or interacting with the AI or whatever? And then understanding in others as well that this might be the case.
Precisely, precisely, precisely. Yes, yes. And the next thing that I always advocate for is setting one's intentions, right? So I think human flourishing and digital flourishing is found when our technology aligns with our intentions. In other words, when our attention is in alignment with our intention. Okay.
I know.
Um,
Yeah.
we live in an attention economy, and ultimately, I think we feel a lack of digital wellness, a lack of digital flourishing when we feel like our attention was taken from us, when it was not something that I intentionally gave away or intentionally applied. And ultimately, I spent 3 hours today on social media or something like that. And I feel like that was not my intention, right? So what we need to do, and certainly in the age of artificial intelligence, is we need to think broader. And what I do every single night is I set my intentions for the next day. I say, okay, from 8 to 10, I'm going to prepare and I'm going to focus on this, right? From 10 to 11, from 11 to 3, I break out my days like this. And then I think, how can technology help me reach each of those goals? How can artificial intelligence actually make me way, way, way more efficient at each and every single one of those little pieces? And in that way, I am kind of the master of my own tech, right? I am in control of it and I am applying it in a way that suits my intentions. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I have been hopefully much more productive than I would have otherwise, right? And so in that way, I think it's about changing our mindsets and it's about really thinking broader. What is my day? What are my intentions? What are my goals? And how can each of these tools help me achieve those goals faster than I could have if I had not used them in the first place? So that's I might have gone on a tangent there. I'm sorry, but I hope that's helpful.
No, it's great. It's great. I love it as well. So intentionality, really, AI and those technologies are tools that help us to reach our goals, and it's not those technologies to lead us to their goals, basically.
Yes,
Uh, it's about uh, avoiding being the slave of those technologies by being clear on what we want to achieve and where we need their help. We are in control. We are the drivers.
precisely.
That's great. I love it. Any other point like this? That you said four, I think. Huh?
Yeah, there's a couple more. One that and I'm still writing it, right? So I think one that I'm most intrigued about is actually our environment. So the next one is really to change your environment, to promote what I refer to as digital flourishing, digital balance. And so if you think about the way that, and this is more related to technology in general, but AI is integral to it. The way that our homes are set up, Pascal. I think that, as you can see behind me, right, I live in a small apartment, so I don't have much of a choice. However, I think the American household is too often centered around technology. The American living center, the living room, is more often than not, right, centered around a television. And I think that in order to actually practice digital wellness, digital balance, especially in the future, we're going to have to really be thoughtful about our home and office environments and the degree to which we ultimately let technology be the center of those communal living spaces and or workspaces. So for instance, if you think about the progression of desktop computing, right? I grew up in the 1990s, right? I'm a 90s kid. And I remember having one central computer, right, in my father's office. And that was the center of kind of all access to the internet, right? Certainly now, right? Not only is there a desktop computer, but there's probably everybody in the household has a laptop, everybody has their phone, everybody has a tablet. For a household of three, there may be 9 or 10 different portals, right, into the online world. And when we have all of those opportunities for connectedness, I think it's just a natural point that we end up spending the majority of our time there, right? The majority of our attention in those spaces. So Pascal, one of the things that I'm really thinking about, and I would predict moving forward, is that our technology is going to become smarter, yes, but ultimately, I think we as humans are going to become smarter about how we design our homes around our technology. And I think that we're going to get to a point where we have separation of spaces. We have more intentional, more mindful application and integration of technology in our spaces so that, again, our intentions can supersede our attention and the draw that these devices have towards us. And so as it applies to artificial intelligence, I think that there are going to be so many opportunities and so many unique and intriguing applications of AI into the home environment. And I ultimately am a big proponent of just thinking diligently about that, thinking skeptically about, is that something that is going to be beneficial, or is it going to lead to a further integration of tech and human life in a way that we may not ultimately desire?
Very interesting, very interesting. And that's a yeah, very important point, because we are animals that live in space, and the space changes, I mean, has an impact on our mind and the activities we perform, and knowing where you want technology to be will change the way you behave and the way you think. And that, I think, that can be a field by itself, or that can be a book by itself
Oh, absolutely.
on that you can connect to home decorations or whatever, or even architecture. Yeah,
Yes.
very interesting. And yeah, I'm eager to know about the fourth one.
Course, the fourth one is to take action. So ultimately, what we're trying to do is we're trying to rewire the reward pathways in the brain by essentially thinking about how disconnection can offer a sweeter reward than kind of that momentarily, dopamine hit that we would get from further connection beyond that point of maximum usage. And so the way that I've thought about this to date is really around kind of utility. And you had mentioned superthink. I believe you had mentioned superthinkers. If not, it may be in reference to my partner, my business partner, Amy Blankson, who is doing some work on this right now. And all credit to her. She is also a leading thinker in kind of the age of AI and the application of AI, and not only the workforce, but in general. But her thesis is that AI will actually create a culture of super thinkers. Again, those who are able to maximize the benefits of it while mitigating its affiliated harms. So there will be essentially two classes. There will be the super thinkers, and let's call them I don't know, the normal thinkers. And
Mhm.
ultimately, the thesis is that those who, right, balance and or maximize the benefits of will turn into this, this super thinking kind of class, and class is maybe not the right word, but that is kind of how I'm applying and what I'm thinking about when I'm thinking about taking action and kind of making sure that that reward, so to speak, is sweeter than the momentary hit of dopamine. And I really do think it's in the long-term benefit of us as individuals and ultimately of our organizations. So I'm continuing to develop that one and hash that one out a little bit in my mind, but that's so far kind of where it's at.
That's very interesting, because there is a lot of things we can do on our own brains using neuroplasticity, basically the capacity of the brain to rejuvenate, but also modify itself to adapt to the environment. There is a lot of things we can do with that to improve ourselves. Huh? That's the point here. It's about rewiring our brains um, to reward us, because that's the
Mhm,
word, huh? To reward
mhm,
us for the right behavior, and
mhm,
then getting to the right habits with that.
mhm.
Huh? And that completely makes sense. And yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of exercises, I guess,
Mhm.
to get there. Exercises that you can do on a daily basis that help your brain to take new habits.
Yes, yes, precisely.
That's really interesting. How do you see, because the issue of distractions and addictions. We haven't talked about addictions, by the way.
Yeah,
That is something that is not new in a way, but AI is changing all this because it brings new capabilities to understand ourselves through
yeah.
our data, through the data we generate, to understand what we like to do, what makes us happy, what and 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 from there, uh, tech technology companies, which are um, giving us all those services, do what they have to do. They have to earn money. So most of them are working with advertisements and giving us, as I mean, trying to keep us as long as possible on those applications, whether it's social media, whether it's games or anything, any application. The longer we stay, the more we can see ads. So the more they will get revenue, and the more we come back, the more we will see ads as well. So I see AI coming into play here to try to understand ourselves and guide our behaviors towards what technology companies need.
Mm.
with the
Absolutely,
risks of with the risk of distractions, as we talked about, but also addiction in the long term. And
precisely.
what do you think about all this?
I think that's fascinating. I think you're right. I mean, certainly it's well known that, we're living in kind of the attention economy. And as part of my research, I found it fascinating that in 2022, I don't have it in front of me exactly, but it was roughly the revenue that was generated from the global advertising industry was approximately $821 billion in 2022. Now, if we think about the amount of revenue that was generated from the OPEC region in that year or thereabouts, it was roughly $750 billion, right? And again, those numbers, I don't have them exactly in front of me, but it was roughly those. And ultimately, what the point is that the global advertising industry has now become more valuable than, almost one of the largest exporters of petroleum and in the world, right? And
Mhm.
so we truly are living in this attention economy whereby if oil is our liquid gold, right? Our attention, I say, is our lucid gold, right? And so it is so integral and important that we ultimately protect that attention and apply it in a way that is self-beneficial rather than benefiting, the creators or the marketers or whomever, right, is creating and owning our technology. So when it comes to AI, though, I want to ask you, so are you suggesting or predicting that ultimately artificial intelligence will allow us greater control over our own data in a way that will help us understand ourselves better and thus protect our attention? Is that correct?
I would love to think about it, definitely.
Okay.
Um, uh, I think I hope in the future we will get more control on our own data, not only control but also the benefits of doing whatever we want with our data, meaning also being able, for example, to earn money from our data or to help us get better services, but we choose what we want. We choose, okay. And I think a key technology that will come to help us do all this in the highest security point of view is blockchain. And I think when we will be able to really combine blockchain, the capacity of blockchain to authenticate, create a lineage of data. You understand the source of data. You understand um, also to give you the opportunity to securely monetize it and I mean, giving us more control on our data. I think we will be able to achieve that, and that's a very important milestone that we could achieve. That, as you said, could help us to solve the issues of addictions and distractions due to the data, our data being misused by different companies.
Mm, I love that idea. I really think that's brilliant.
Um, uh, and yes, Tyler, what to avoid all this, I came back to your framework of the three Bs and especially balance. I think how can we, my question that is in the back of my mind is how can we as individuals avoid being the victims of this, uh, of what we talked about, tech companies using our data to bring our attention to whatever they want. Is balance the right thing? Like, is it discipline that we need to put in place, like allowing us just a certain amount of time on social media, or yeah, how to think about it, how
Mm.
to create the best balance?
That's a billion-dollar question, Pascal. I think so. I'll come at it from my lens of expertise, which is in the workplace. Okay, and I really do believe that in order for any sort of behavioral change on the individual level, we need structural change on kind of the cultural and level. And I don't mean societal, like yes, societal, but ultimately what I'm referring to is workplace culture. Because Pascal, what I have seen in my own experience is this self perpetuating screen time cycle. What I mean by that is that we have started to lack the boundaries between our work and our life, right? And so whereas 10 years ago, 15 years ago, certainly 20 years ago, right? When we were done with work at 5 o'clock, we didn't have the means to continue
Mm,
working past that time.
yes.
So while certainly it's a benefit, and certainly there are numerous benefits to our being able to be connected outside of working hours, what is created is this always on, constantly connected feeling that, in my mind, has actually created this screen time cycle. So whereby I am burnt out and or tired from numerous inputs, right, from the workplace culture. Guess what I do as a result, right? My quickest path to dopamine is right there in the palm of my hands, right? And so ultimately what happens is I end up spending more time on my non-work related screen time usage as a result, right? And this self-fulfilling or self-perpetuating screen time cycle continues because then when I should be otherwise productive, right? I'm not because I'm pulled into my own screen time. So what I ultimately think when I talk about balance, I think it starts yes, on the individual level, and there's a certain amount of onus and responsibility that is placed upon the individual. But ultimately, that individual's responsibility is to advocate for a broader structural change and a broader culture of balance within the organization so that employees are given the ability to disconnect after hours. And ultimately, it is then their choice. And I hope that through practice and intentional the application of their time that they do choose to disconnect in those moments, right? So instead of them feeling overwhelmed and overburdened and so overly connected, we have this balance between our screens and our time away from screens. So that's my hope, that's my desire, and ultimately on an individual level, yes, what I would advise them is to really think more structurally about the benefits when there's a culture of disconnection and separation and balance. How can we really take advantage of that and start to change our cultures accordingly?
Very good, very good. And so you encourage companies to put in place such
Yep.
boundaries, for their employees, where they leave work and they should not be supposed to have a look at their emails anymore or work from home anymore. And it could be even a hard rule where people should leave their PCs in the office so that they can't, and people have to, and employees have to understand that it is for their well-being that this is done as well. So that's
Employees should, and leaders should understand that it's for their profitability, right?
yes.
I believe that the most profitable, most productive companies of the future will be the ones that have the greatest amount of tech-like boundaries. Okay.
Yes.
And so what we've also done, Pascal, is we created the world's first survey and employee engagement survey and recognition program to actually recognize the world's most digitally balanced workplaces. And ultimately, we've partnered with our publishing partner here in the United States, Fast Company, the magazine, the publisher, to create a list of the world's most digitally balanced workplaces
I love
every
it.
single year. And I'm so excited about that. And so I think that's an excellent place to start. But more than just digital balance, we're talking about human-centered companies that take a human-centered approach to workplace culture in this digital age. And that certainly relates to artificial intelligence, right? We can't have a digitally balanced culture if AI is taken over all aspects of our work, right? So that really just comes back to everything that you're talking about and everything that this community is so passionate about. It is about being irreplaceable, right? It is about creating a community that is irreplaceable and that is ultimately flourishing.
Excellent. Thanks, Tyler. That's really clear. And we have two more minutes. Can you tell us where we can find more information about you, about the Institute, about what you do? And
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. You can visit the Digital Wellness Institute at digitalwellnessinstitute.com. You can learn all about our certification program there by visiting the website. And you can follow me on my author Instagram page. It's Tyler Rice Author, RICE author, and also at my website, tylerriceauthor.com.
excellent. Excellent. And you talked about those certifications. Those are certifications that any one of us can take, correct? That gives us
Yes.
those tools
Yes.
and I mean mentality and strategies to be able to cope better with.
Precisely. So we offer certifications for individuals as well as for companies, but ultimately for individuals, yes, by visiting our website, you can become certified as either a digital wellness educator to speak on this topic, to kind of create your brand around this topic and go to more companies to, if you believe that this is the next phase of company innovation and strategy, as I do, that's a great program. If you are a change maker internal to an organization and you wish to bring about a culture of digital balance, we also have a certification for that, the Certified Champion. So both of which are excellent tools for any individual that's passionate in this space.
Amazing, amazing. And do we have any stats that explains how more productivity people can get by being more balanced digitally?
Yeah. So one thing that I will say is that our interventions are something that we bring to companies, and through the course of our interventions, we've increased workplace productivity by about 18%. And now that's self attested, right? Now, the thing that I'm most excited about, and I know we're at the end, but the thing that I'll leave you with is that this index that we've created, this survey, so to speak, what we've done is we've conducted a Pearson correlation on taking that and the scientifically validated measurements of burnout, of ENPS, Employer Net Promoter Score, as well as mental health. Okay. What we found is that digital balance or a lack thereof accounts for 22% of an organization's burnout, up to 50% of an organization's ENPS, and ultimately 12% of mental health or depression within an organization. And I find that so fascinating, Pascal, because what it really is saying is that if your organization is addressing each of those areas through different interventions, but they're not considering the digital culture of the organization or the effect that digital balance has on the organization, they are missing a large part of the equation. So that's my personal mission, to bring that to more companies and ultimately have that trickle down to the individual level.
Very, very insightful and exciting. Thank you so much, Tyler. Thanks for being with us and sharing all these insights. And I'll see you next time.
We'll see you next
Let's
time.
stay connected.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks for watching, guys. And an episode will come soon on another topic. Stay tuned. Thanks.